involved with this institute since over a year now, right from its inception to launch and operationalizing it, and currently involved in delivery of the program. And we are joined by Dr. Prabhu Agarwal, who's the Dean of the Institute. And so today's session is going to be about how a PGDM changes you personally and professionally. And we would get to hear from Dr. Agarwal's life story and experience during his MBA days, and his days of learning while he was doing his PhD and his work experience too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this session, and we can start off. I would like to start off with just addressing the fact that there are a bunch of MBA institutes in the market at present, and I see that a lot of them are focusing on specializations these days, right? We have some schools focused on entrepreneurship, some schools focused on data or technology. And this is due to the rapidly changing demands in the market, right? We see that the current market has shifted towards technology, where there's more demand for data, there's more demand for fintech and digital marketing. As the global economy also adapts to a technological advancement. So, Dr. Agarwal, what are your thoughts on this transformation that's taking place in the market at present? And what is the role of business schools in that context? You're on mute.
So I'm technologically challenged. Okay, so starting off, Shrishti, thank you for having me on this panel. And, a lot has changed since I went to business school, and a lot will continue to change. And I think there are three dominant themes today that are driving businesses in a larger sense. One is the entire focus on how technology is reshaping the business landscape and how technology is rapidly changing the way business is being conducted. And we're talking about advancements in AI and the other machine learning. And the other big change today in businesses is data-driven decision making. And data is the new oil, of course. So how to manage data and how to gain insights from data. And I think the third larger theme over all this is the focus on sustainable business practices and, the climate effects and climate change. So in this rapidly evolving context or rapidly evolving changed scenario for the 21st century business leader, fundamentally, when 20 years ago or 10 years ago, business schools were focused on some of the more traditional core functional areas of marketing, finance, strategy, and what you name them, you are seeing that new schools have to adapt rather quickly to imparting some of these very fundamental knowledge to our students so that they can adopt or adapt to a technologically driven environment. They can adapt to also, I would say, a more uncertain environment because everything is changing so quickly. Our students have to be very comfortable with working with data. Our students have to become very comfortable with environmental issues, sustainable growth, business growth, and sustainability going hand in hand. And more importantly, the definition of leadership is also evolving. I mean, traditional business schools taught leadership in the sense of being hierarchical. You are going to be a CEO of a company or a CXO of a company, and that's how you drive everything from the top down. Today, the leader is defined very differently. It's about empathy. It's about teamwork. It's about becoming an enabler. It's about becoming talking about work-life balance, collaborative, how to make the team successful. So I think there are so many fundamental differences today than there were 10 years ago. And I don't see that not changing. And I think the most important part that I want to speak of is while the functional knowledge and core competencies are still very much needed, it's the ability of the students to have those correct soft skills, something we call essential skills and perspectives, which are about critical thinking, problem solving, communicating, teamwork, collaboration, that holistic ideas that are required, very much so. Communication is getting even more important. People management skills, um, understanding your own capabilities as a leader, and how do you define yourself as a leader? How do you develop your leadership skills? How do you develop as a leader to lead others? How do you develop as a leader to lead change? I think this is kind of like how I would answer you.
Okay. I want to talk about what work learning. One is what is relevant to learn context of AI, number one, and second in the context of increasingly growing interpersonal spaces. So one example I can think of from a speaker series session that we did 2 weeks back, he talked about changing the way the human resources in a particular company were utilized. So instead of getting a person to write a code, this entrepreneur got the AI capabilities and tools to write the code and just completely vacate that entire vertical of coders. So how is AI shaping the current business demands? These days? Maybe you can address
Repeating
both.
myself, the soft skills should remain very high up on my list. The ability to issue, we have seen people more and more working or looking to, at least the new generation is looking to work in a hybrid environment. So when you're not necessarily at office all the time, how does that change? How do you build bonds? So these things will remain. Okay. Now, when you talk about AI, it's an evolving area. AI to write a code. You trust. So somebody at some level has to make sure that that code is fundamentally correct. I'm just taking from your example. I mean, if somebody has to write copyright articles in journalism, AI will do a great job at it. Somebody has to verify it. So the role of the human being will continue to evolve and work more with AI and not, I don't think AI is ready to replace, but to a large extent, it does look like it's going to be a transformative change in the way businesses are going to leverage AI going forward.
Sure. And I think that's where the skill or rather the mindset of adapting to technology also comes in. I want to build on to what you spoke about soft skills. And I want to talk about, while I do agree that critical thinking, collaboration, and all of these are important, communication, problem solving, and we can harp on all about it. We've been doing that. Can they really be learned? And can they really be taught and learned in a business school? Do we need a separate
I
class?
think, I think, I think it requires, yes, I think structured interventions will help students to pick up some of these essential skills. Structured interventions, case studies, collaborative teamwork, creating the environment at a business school, especially at a residential program, gives a lot of opportunities to build these critical skills. Yes, they can be taught. I don't think you're naturally born with these. I think you learn these, and most of the times you learn these through experiences of how you deal with people, through failures, through successes, through participation in club events, taking on leadership roles, becoming more participative, um, getting involved in club activities, getting involved in all these case competitions that are happening. These are all avenues for you to build on your critical skills, on problem solving skills, teamwork. So I absolutely think that a curriculum requires structured interventions in order to build students' soft skills.
Sure.
You can't, you need to be exposed to them. You need to be exposed to experts who can lead you down there. You really don't need professors teaching you. You need moderators. You need somebody who facilitates the right interventions to do this.
Right. And also talking about it a little practically, right? Let's say there are a couple of students who have gone through modules and courses on communication, problem solving, so on and so forth. And then there are students who haven't. My question is, if someone does not come in with a foundational knowledge of problem solving, or is not very high on collaboration, or cannot communicate crisply, right? What disadvantage do they have vis-a-vis someone who can in a workplace? What do they stand to?
So, and I'm just kind of keeping the focus on a business school or a residential program. I think this is the perfect opportunity for an MBA program or a PGDM program, which is residential in nature. Why? That's why I believe in the residential part, is because of that collaborating and living together allows students who are a little ahead of others to bring the students along with them who are not as good at those skills. And it's over time that collaboration will bring students at par. Imagine somebody who is not good at some of these soft skills, but is functionally very, very good in data analytics. It's a give and take. So the student who has got some good problem solving skills and teams up with the student who has got some really good data analytics skills, together they can do a lot more than what they can do individually. So I don't see, it's obviously it's a good idea if students with some experience come into a program because they've been exposed to the real world. And that's where they really get a chance to try all these soft skills, right? So they are a little bit in tune with what those soft skills should be and where did I fail, and people skills and people management and anger management, you name it. So yes, there is going to be at a starting point, there would be some advantages and disadvantages depending on whom we are talking about. But the idea is, if you do so much collaborative and experiential learning in school, in addition to your core subjects, there is tremendous amount of value of bringing people who have different skill sets together and putting them. In fact, at Badruka, we do about 40% of assessments in classes are teamwork. And that's one of the primary reasons we do that. And we see a lot of resistance in the beginning from our students because they feel like, oh, I have to carry all the weight. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But very soon they realize if we don't do it as a team, and if we don't work on it together, we will not be able to get the work done. And that's real life. Real life is you don't most of the time work on your own. Most of the time you work in a team to deliver a solution.
Yeah, I do resonate with that. And I think as As someone who's also been involved in recruitment, the lens at which I have started operating has been functionally, people can always learn skills, right? People can always learn data analytics. People can always learn an AI tool. But what's even more difficult to learn is just collaborating with a co-worker and solving a problem,
Yeah,
or
easy.
proactively asking a question. And we don't see that happening naturally. So I think I agree with your point that these skills need to be taught in a very systematized manner in a business school so
And
that.
I don't think it is a single intervention. It's a journey, and you keep at it. You maybe every 2 weeks have some intervention, but if you don't keep at it as a structured curriculum that you bring people together, you force them into uncomfortable situations. You literally have to force people into uncomfortable situations to really hone their skills. You
Right.
need to let them fail. You need to let them fall. You need to let them fall and get up. You need to let them find their comfort zones. Um, each of these students have a very unique take on how they look at things. And they somebody said to me this morning, what I like about the faculty members and the courses that I'm taking is that the faculty members come back and say there is no right answer.
Hmm.
It's the approach to a problem and how you solve it is what I'm more interested in. I'm more interested in knowing how you are approaching something. You may or may not arrive at the right answer. Seldom do leaders arrive at the right answer, by the way, but they facilitate a environment which allows the participants and the entire team to be vested in it to try to solve a real problem.
Correct. Correct. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. And on that note, I'd like to shift gears and talk a little bit more about your journey. If you could share a little bit about your academic background and how you ended up with a PhD after an MBA, that would be really helpful for our audience.
Okay, all right, all right. Let's see. Okay, so I don't know. So I'm born to a professor, and I grew up on around academicians to begin with. My father was a professor. I grew up on a college campus. I spent my entire life on a college campus. Uh, so to begin with, that environment created a lot of so-called what should I say, a kind of an environment around me where um, I my journey into academia was really um, something that started early in life, at a younger age, and I think it's the environment in which I grew up which created a desire to contribute intellectually. It was not a sudden one. It was not like one day I woke up and I said, "Oh, I have to become a professor." It was something that was a culmination of various experiences and influences that I had in my life. I have always been a curiosity seeker, a lifelong learner, a reader, and I was a good student. Um, I I was really very fortunate to have some excellent teachers and mentors, not just who taught me, but also influenced the way I was becoming. They always would ignite a lot of curiosity in me. And we just had somebody, we were talking to you, and they said, what do you want? And said, never lose curiosity. And I totally believe in that. I mean, my curiosity never ends. And sometimes I think I'm almost a little, yeah, anal about it. I went to engineering school. I'm a graduate from IIT Kanpur. I pursued an engineering degree. Honestly, um, reflecting back, I think I was least interested in engineering. to be honest. But I obviously got some lovely, fantastic professors to teach me. So I spent my undergraduate years in engineering. And I think the most valuable thing I can reflect on to for my 4 years of undergraduate program is nothing to do with studies. It's got to do with my network and with my peers. They remain my best friends today. And so that's my biggest takeaway from my undergraduate program. Post my undergraduate program, I joined an MBA program because I thought, that's the only way to make money, a lot of money. So it's so interesting. I joined the MBA program abroad. I went straight from my BTech to the MBA program with no work X. And after 1 year, I got an internship, and I tell you, I hated every day of that internship. Yeah, it was not fun. I had a very, very interesting professor in my undergraduate program, sorry, in the MBA program, whom I called back and I said, really, I don't know what I really want to, I'm really curious about research and knowledge, and I want to do this. So he encouraged me to switch midway into my MBA program to a PhD program. So I have an interesting journey. After my first year of my MBA program, I actually became a doctoral candidate. And I did complete my MBA and I had started my PhD program. So I actually graduated at a very young age. In 4 years, I completed 5 years, both an MBA and a PhD combined. I knew I wanted to be in academics. That's the best part of it. I never thought of anything else. I wanted to be in academics. After graduating with a PhD, I have had only one job. And I was a professor for 21 years in the same university system. I graduated and I joined them as assistant professor, associate, full, dean, and that's been my life. About 10 years ago, I got an opportunity to come to India. I didn't know what to expect. I came on a 1-year sabbatical, and I have now led or built 4 institutions of higher education. Interestingly. And 10 years into this institutional building effort has now suddenly, in the last year or so, made me more wanting to go back to my intellectual roots. And I have started enjoying and started teaching a lot more now. So if I had a chance to do it all over again, I would do it. I would remain an academician all my life. And I hope I have another 20 years in me to continue teaching, to continue building the next generation of leaders, to inspire them, to impart whatever I have left in me to impart. I become very picky, very choosy in what I want to do now. I wouldn't have told you this when I was in the MBA program that I'll be a vice chancellor 4 times over. I didn't know that. I was supposed to be selling toothpaste for Procter and Gamble. Didn't happen. So
How did
there is
that
a deep
journey, how did that journey happen? How was it like working for Procter and Gamble? Was it
I
your
hated it. I hated it. There was no intellectual puppies. I mean, I just wasn't cut out for it, and I'm happy that I realized that early on. I mean, I like a traditional summer internship that happens in an MBA program. You get a internship offer, you go join the company. It's a 6-week, 8-week program. After 1 week, 2 weeks, I'm like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I did complete it. It was part of my course requirements, but also I think it was an eye opener for me. I mean, it was more validation that I really don't want to do this. I don't see that intellectual stimulation that I need, crave, and want. So I don't have any bad memories. It was just, I think, a good thing for me that it happened, and I was young, 21, 22, something like that. And it's a good time to be woken up.
right?
And one of the things that I think worked for me was that at that age, I became pretty committed to what I wanted to do, and I never questioned it again. I never
Right.
questioned my academic pursuits. And I actually had very interesting job offers after I graduated from my PhD. And I'm very fascinated with aviation in general. I actually have a pilot's license, and my first job offer was from American Airlines, and they were looking to build. They were hiring PhDs in their so-called data science management science department. So I thought about that for a day or two, and then I said, nah, that's not what. I mean, I'll actually have to go to work from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Right.
And that does not excite me. And the only place where you can find some solace from this 9 to 5 job is to become an academician.
Right.
So
Right.
we are always working, though. My brain is always stimulated. I mean, I might not be, at work, but I'm working. I mean, thinking about classes, thinking about what I can learn. I'm reading fascinating books. Just, I grew up when we didn't have technology in our pockets, and just trying to catch up with that.
Right.
So for me, I'm always feel like I'm outdated. I look at these young people and I feel like I'm outdated.
Right.
So it keeps driving me to say, okay, how do I become more relevant to everything that's happening in the world? And what I find fascinating is that my area is back in vogue. Data science is now a big word, right? And I'm a
Right.
PhD in related areas. So it's been a fascinating journey.
You said something really interesting that stood out to me, and that was the MBA. Your time during your MBA, it kind of opened your eyes, and it told you, you got to know what you're not interested in.
Yeah.
So, for our current cohort and for those who are interested in our program, how should they start thinking about experiencing these 2 years and what to make out of these 2 years?
Experiment. If you're not sure, okay, maybe there's somebody out there who knows exactly what he or she wants. Fine, lovely, go for it. But for those who don't know what they want, I think they should be least bothered. They're too young to bother. They need to experiment with choices, right? With somebody has an entrepreneurial mindset. Somebody wants to say, okay, now I want to work for a top 10 finance job or a top 10 consulting program. Go for it. Your first job is not going to be your last job. If you survive there for 2 years, I'll be very fascinated. Most people don't live in this generation, don't actually take a job for longer than 2 years, 3 years. I'm an anomaly. I worked in the same place for 21 years. So I don't know if I have the right answer for you. But I don't think there is a better place and time to experiment than now.
Sure.
It's the time to expand. The word experiment is very vast. What do you want to experiment with? Do you want to dabble in trying a startup? Do you want to go work for 2 years? Each of them have their pros and cons. Do you want to go abroad to study? Do you want to stay in India and work? You know, the India I grew up in and the India that we are looking at today are so different. In my time, we were a closed economy. Today India is the fastest growing large economy in the world. The next 20 years are India's golden period. Anybody coming out of management school today should not have a problem with finding a job if he's looking for a job or she's looking for a job, because India Inc. needs you. India Inc. needs you. You have to find your space. It's a highly competitive world, but you cannot go wrong today if you experiment.
Sure. And in the context of what BSM's program offers and looking at it in conjunction with the needs of India Inc. that you mentioned, what are some competencies do you believe students can develop at BSM through the program and that will set them apart in the
So I
job?
think okay, so let's just take BSM so what we have tried to do at BSM is we have tried to create a block teaching model. which is very immersive, which covers all the fundamental areas of what a management graduate requires today. But there are three underlying themes that we have taken on as what I don't know if the word is enablers, but there are three underlying themes across the BSM curriculum. One is technology and how technology is impacting business. One is data and data analytics and how to work with data. And the third is how to build an entrepreneurial mindset. So these three critical pieces have been embedded across the program over the 2 years. Finally, there are 12 essential skills and perspective interventions. And I'm using the word interventions. Those are structured in. We go above and beyond what the regulators mandate. We do a lot of experiential work. We have a lot of exposure to industry folks who come to our campus on a regular basis and interact with students. We have some unique programs like a mentor-mentee program where the students and their industry mentors are working together with constant dialogue. And I think we stress on the idea of a residential program where we do a lot of cohort-based learning, which again strengthens the concept of how to build your soft skills. We have a vibrant community of student clubs, both functional clubs and so-called what's the right word? Non-functional, not
professional
like
social clubs.
Social clubs. Thank you for helping me out. And I think these are great opportunities for our students to take leadership positions, hone their skills. We constantly engage with them in honing their writing skills, their business communication skills, their presentation skills. So we're not just working to create graduates in a ways. We're trying to create future leaders who have the confidence to lead that next generation of India Inc. India Inc. Generally, I've had many positions. You go to employers and they're always crying about the fact that MBA graduates are not employable, right? And we know there's a lot of demand for students who are employable. And when you sit and you talk to placement department heads of MBA schools, they said, we don't have employers who want to employ our students. Well, guess what? There's a gap there, right? Therefore, your program is not creating employability. So if employability is one of your yardsticks, and an MBA is a professional degree. 9 out of 10 people who go to an MBA program or a postgraduate management program are looking to enter the professional workforce. True. So there are some who are not necessarily there for that. They're looking for learning the core competencies of being a management graduate, but more interested in probably starting their own company sometimes. There are many people I've met in life who started as an MBA, joined their first job, 4 years later dropped out because they could not handle being in that situation and they wanted to do something on their own.
It's interesting that you mentioned the gap when recruiters say that most MBAs are not employable. My question to you is, what would an employable professional look like?
I think you have to just go back on the themes that I've harped upon. Can that person work in a environment where he or she is comfortable with technology? He or she has the right people skills, has the right, let's use the word soft skills, right? Do they have the value systems? Are they curious learners? Do they, they're disruptors. Some of them are disruptors. And there are employers who don't want disruptors. They want just those plain vanilla people who will sit down on a 9-to-5 job. So there are two parts to this. And if you are creating the kind of students who are holistically, I think rarely will an employer go and start questioning a student on deep finance theory during the interview. If you really think about it, they'll be really looking at attitude, curiosity, value systems, people management skills. And these things will be the important pieces. It's the approach, right? It's the approach. When you look at questions that a Google would ask a prospective student would be, how many trees are there in the world? They don't expect an answer. They expect, how would you approach this? How many liters of paint is required to paint every window or building in Hyderabad? Do you think there's an answer to this? No, but there's an approach to how you would try to solve these problems. So I think that's kind of what we are trying to do here at our program, is trying to allow our students to be creative and find ways to get into these kind of fuzzy areas. How uncomfortable are you? How comfortable you are with uncertainty? I've said this before to my students, and I always say, the area of management exists because the world is uncertain. What are you managing at the end of the day? Uncertainty. Now, what is people are uncertain. So you have to manage all this uncertainty that people bring to the workforce. You're managing uncertainty because of, the world is probabilistic. We are not an economist who can wish away all the uncertainty and say, okay, assume that there is no uncertainty and therefore life is cool. I always use an example that Murphy's Law. What is Murphy? What is reality? Reality is Murphy. Whenever you think everything is hunky-dory, something is going to come and bite you. And that's Murphy. So we are managing uncertainty. So we have to teach our students to be comfortable with uncertainty. We have to teach our students to be uncomfortable or comfortable in an uncomfortable situation.
Right. And just coming on to one of my last questions before we open up the space for Q&A. And just by the way, if people have questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box here. We'll be taking up questions after just this bit. I just wanted to quickly get your thoughts on what are we doing? How are we making the students employable? And what are some avenues for students to get workplace ready in terms of placements and internships?
So, I mean, honestly, we're not doing anything specific to make our students employable. If I may say that in a different way, I'm turning your question around. Everything we are doing is about creating that curious learner. And a curious, lifelong learner is always employable. So, yeah, we some of the world's best professors coming and teaching them. We have people from all over the world who will come and impart knowledge and tell the students what's happening in the world, the latest development. So that's all happening. We have structured interventions, but we have to create an environment that we become a school that is known for creating lifelong, curious people. And that person is always going to be employable. Employment will follow. I know, unfortunately, in our country, we look at business schools as an entitlement, that if you get into a good business school, you're entitled to the top job. We are not a placement agency. We shouldn't see ourselves as placement agencies. We should see ourselves as a place where we are fostering talent, young talent, and developing them into curious, lifelong learners.
All right. I think I'll also just add a little bit here to or if you would like to add here, you please do. In terms of industry immersion opportunities, we are starting off a mentorship program We will also be opening up live projects for students next year, wherein they can do some real world problem solving with companies. So if you'd like to share a few thoughts on our
But
industry.
you're right. You're right. I mean, you just named you're mentioning what are structured interventions.
Yeah.
You know, our students are required to do a summer internship. Our students are required to do a live project. They are supposed to be, I mean, as I said, almost every other week on campus, we have an industry expert. It's something we have a series called the Career Compass series, where students interact with industry professionals. We have people who have lived through the MBA journey and have are able to share what were their learnings, what they think the students need to know. The students are got mentors coming in and becoming one-to-one mentors to them from the industry. So all these are just some are pretty standard and some are really innovative ways of connecting the students to industry.
Right. So I think that's what I was alluding to.
I know. Okay.
It's also important for a business school to line up opportunities for students where they can get.
Yes, I think that's our job. Yes, absolutely. Our job is to create as many opportunities we can for students. I think what the students have to do is to be able to grab those opportunities and say, okay, what works for them and what doesn't work for them.
Right.
I'd be
Thank you.
happy to take questions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was just closing our dialogue here, and we're open to questions from our participants. If you have a question, please do put that in the Q&A box. And I mean, the question can be about anything, right? It could be about you're interested in MBA program, your thoughts about BSM's PGDM program, if you'd like to clarify anything, anything under the sun, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. The only answer I might have is I don't know.
Right. Okay, so I don't see any questions
No, I
coming.
just see something coming from Niharika. How do you want us to be prepared to face internships? I think I would like you to spend the next couple of months of your um, time in probably discovering what you really want to do. Which area do you want to get into? Do you want to be in a corporate setting, a non-corporate setting? Do you want to be in a startup, a boutique? And I think at Badruka, what we are going to be doing is we are well connected. Our legacy is very old. It's a 75-year-old institutional legacy. So we are well connected both through our old network of companies. It is then for us to create opportunities for you to find the right internship. Believe me, you will find it. Rituja is asking us a question on what is a better option in MBA or a PGDM. To be quite honest, I think it's a nomenclature issue. Universities in India are the only ones who are allowed to give an MBA. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And autonomous AICT programs can only offer a PGDM program. As late as last 2 years ago, MBAs or even IIMs were not allowed to offer an MBA.
We have a question from Aman.
Yeah, Aman, can you clarify what do you mean from a civil background?
Civil services, is that what you mean? But I think
I mean, I don't know the answer. What the word civil? Oh, civil engineering. Oh, it makes MBA is the only program which allows you to morph into anything you want to, from whatever background you come. You could be a liberal arts student, you could be a commerce student, you could be an engineering student, you could be a historian, an English major. It's the MBA which allows you to transition. It's the most interdisciplinary program available today to make a transition out of a very domain-specific engineering program to a much more wider management degree. So I see that as, I mean, traditionally, many of the good MBA schools had engineers admitted to them. And I think the reason was because of our selection process, our entrance exams are quant heavy sometimes. And therefore, engineers succeeded a little bit more. A lot of IITians went to IIMs and so on and so forth. Today, you see a profound shift in this. You see that there is more focus on gender equity, more focus on diversity, more focus on inclusivity. So it doesn't matter. I mean, you have to ask yourself, why do you want to switch from engineering to management? The answer only lies within you. But you don't need really a commerce background or a accounting or a finance background or an engineering background to succeed in an MBA program. Let me put it this way. You could be a medical practitioner, a dentist, or anybody, a surgeon. I've had surgeons, dentists, doctors getting into an MBA program because they kind of, have that management aspirations. Maybe they want to start their own private practices. Who knows? A lot of industry CXOs want to get into an executive MBA program later on because they want to get into a doctorate of business administration because now suddenly later in life they want to teach. So there are lots of pathways. I hope I've helped you.
Okay.
I go back to the theme I started off by saying that there are no right answers. And I remain with that theme. There are no right answers. The answers lie within you.
Yep. And I think the MBA journey is about seeking those answers, and you'll know, what you will find.
Yep.
Once you're done with it. So I think that's about it from our end. Handing over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Srishti. And thanks, Dr. Agarwal, for this insightful session. It was really helpful. And I really feel that a lot of students here who are either planning their MBA or who have already joined a management program would have really gathered a lot from this discussion. So yeah, for me personally, because I'm planning my MBA soon, this was definitely helpful kind of understand the career journey and the personal journey that Dr. Agarwal has had and kind of take some insights from that. So before we
good
wrap
luck to
up,
you.
thanks, Dr. Agarwal. So before we wrap up this webinar for the students that we have here who are planning their MBA, I just very quickly wanted to talk a little bit about BSM and about the kind of the program that we have, and also the entire application process, which is a very short application process, to be very honest. So Dr. Agarwal, who is the Dean of the Badruka School of Management, if you want to hear more from him, and more faculty, international faculty who come from different organizations, and if you want to really experience that on campus, you can definitely join us. So the applications for the next class of 2027 are currently open for the Badruka School of Management. We're currently offering a 2-year PGDM program, which is a full-time residential program. If you're interested, the eligibility is pretty much simple. You only need to have a 10th and 12th class graduation scores. and an undergraduate degree from a recognized Indian university or international one. You can have a score from within CAT, GMAT, SAT, or MAT, but this is again not limited to just these exams. We also accept other national uh, entrance exams such as the SNAP and the NMAT exam as well. We do prefer students with work experience, but that's definitely not a mandate for us. For those who are willing to apply, we are offering a free of cost application process. So you don't need to pay anything while submitting your application. It's a completely free of cost application process and it's completely online. So you don't need to take that extra effort in coming for an interview or submitting your application form offline. The applications form will be submitted online. Your personal interview will also be conducted online, and very soon you'll get to know from about your offer letter from us, from our admissions team. Talking a little bit about uh, talking a little bit about the uh, the fee structure of the program overall. The For year one, the current fee is 7.5 lakhs, which is a tuition fee. And at the time of admission, you'll be submitting a fee of around 50,000. This will be a one-time admission fee deposit. And this same fee structure will continue in your year two. And the residential fee, which includes your meals and basically an all-inclusive cost, which will be 1.75 lakhs per year for both the years. Additionally, we are also offering a lot of financial aid and scholarships to students. We understand that it might be difficult for students coming from various backgrounds to kind of achieve or be enabled to quality education. And for that, we're offering scholarships, and we've tied up with major banks across India to help support our students with this. We're offering merit and needs-based scholarship for students of various categories. And we also have a lot of bank tie-ups to kind of help you with the entire loan and financial assistance process. This is a quick, you know, you can, if you'd really like to apply and start off your application right now, you can just scan the QR code on the top left corner. This will take you to a page and there will be a very short form that you will need to fill out. And someone from our admissions team will reach out to you very soon, within the next 24 hours. If in case for some reason you're unable to scan this QR code, you can obviously write to us at admissions@BadrukaSchoolOfManagement.edu.in or give us a call on this number and we'll definitely help you out. If you'd like to explore a little bit more about the program, about our faculty, about the partnerships that BSM has, you can obviously scan this QR code on the bottom right corner as well, which will take you to our website. And yeah, you can definitely know more and reach out to us any point of time. So I'll just stay on this slide for a few more moments. But I would like to thank everyone for joining us today on this Tuesday evening. It was lovely to have you all, and thank you so much for making time out and joining us today. Thanks all.